Hello everyone, welcome to Dreamy English Stories. In this video, you will practice your English listening skills through a calm and realistic story. This story is perfect for English learners who want to improve listening comprehension and practice speaking using the shadowing technique. Listen carefully. Pause when you need. Repeat the sentences out loud. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. I took the long way home. I usually take the same way home, the same streets, the same turns, the same pace. I don't think about it anymore. My body already knows the direction. That day started the same way. I left the building and felt the air change. The day was ending. People were moving quickly as if everyone had somewhere important to be. I checked the time. Nothing urgent, nothing late. Still, I felt the familiar pressure to move fast. I started walking. At first, everything felt automatic. Step after step, thought after thought, my mind was already ahead of me, thinking about what came next. Then, without planning it, I slowed down. Just a little. Enough to notice my breathing. Enough to notice the sound of my steps. At the next corner, I stopped. This was where I usually turned. The familiar way. The fastest way. I stood there for a moment and looked down the street. Then I looked the other way. A quieter road, longer, less familiar. I felt unsure. Why take the long way? Why change something that worked? I had no good reason. And somehow, that felt like enough. I turned. At first it felt strange. My body expected something else. The rhythm was different. The space felt wider. I became more aware of where I was. I noticed the buildings. Some were old, some were new. I had passed near them many times, but I had never really looked. My pace slowed naturally. No one was pushing me forward. No one seemed to notice me at all. And that felt calming. I realized how often I rushed even when I didn't need to, as if stopping meant falling behind. I listened to the sounds around me, distant voices, footsteps, the quiet movement of the city. Nothing loud, nothing demanding. My thoughts began to change. They became slower, less focused on problems, more focused on the moment. I remembered how often I hurried home only to feel restless again. The place wasn't the problem. The speed was. I passed a small street I had never walked down before. I felt curious, not excited, just gently interested. I thought about how rarely I allowed myself to choose curiosity over efficiency. The longer path gave me something unexpected. Space. Space between thoughts. Space between moments. I felt present, not distracted, not tense, just walking. I checked the time again. I had added several minutes to my journey. That didn't bother me. For the first time in a long while, time felt flexible. I wondered when I had started treating every minute as something to manage. The street became quieter, the light softer. I felt like I had stepped out of my routine without leaving my city. I didn't know where the road would lead, but I wasn't worried. I trusted it would still take me home. And so I kept walking. As I continued walking, I noticed something subtle. I was no longer thinking about arriving. I was simply moving. The road curved gently, and the city felt quieter here. Not empty, just calmer. I could hear my own steps clearly now. Each one felt deliberate. I realized how often I rushed without noticing, as if speed itself was a habit I never questioned. I looked around more carefully. Small details began to appear. A light in a window, a plant on a balcony, a shadow moving across the sidewalk. Things I had passed many times before without seeing. I felt connected to the space around me, not in a dramatic way, just aware. My thoughts softened. They stopped jumping ahead. They stopped pulling me backward. They stayed with me. I remembered how often I felt tired at the end of the day, not physically, mentally. That tiredness came from constant movement, from always trying to be efficient. Walking the longer way felt like an act of kindness, a small one, but meaningful. I noticed my breathing again, steady, even. I wasn't pushing myself. I wasn't trying to get anywhere faster. I thought about how rarely I allowed myself to slow down without guilt, as if rest had to be earned. A quiet question appeared in my mind. What if slowing down was not a reward, but a need? I didn't answer it right away. I let it walk with me. The path became familiar again. I recognized the buildings now. I knew I was close to home. Normally, this would make me hurry, but today I didn't change my pace. I realized something important. Taking the long way was never really about the distance. It was about attention. When I rushed, I missed myself. When I slowed down, I returned. That thought felt true and simple. I felt grateful for the extra minutes, for the quiet, for the choice. As I reached the final street, I stopped briefly, just to stand there, just to notice how I felt. I wasn't rushing anymore. I wasn't distracted. I felt calm. I knew this feeling wouldn't last forever, but that wasn't the point. The point was knowing I could return to it. I could take the long way again, not just on the street, but in my day, in my choices. I walked the rest of the way home with that thought beside me, light, steady. When I finally arrived, nothing had changed. The door, the room, the quiet, but I had changed, just a little, and that was enough. Final reflection. Sometimes the long way is not a delay. It is an invitation to slow down. Outrow, listening practice in CTA. Now listen to the story again. Pause after each sentence and repeat it out loud using the shadowing technique. This will help you improve English listening, sound more natural when speaking, feel more confident with real English. Tell me in the comments, have you ever taken the long way home on purpose? If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and subscribe to Dreamy English's stories for more calm and meaningful English listening practice. Thank you for listening. See you in the next story.